Welcome to the first episode of Order on the Court. My name is Matt. I'm joined by Jared, Cal, and Sadeep. And as the season goes along, we're going to be breaking down the biggest stories, highlights, and topics that surround the game we love so much. With the season just a few weeks away, we'll kick off our inaugural show with some predictions.
Sure. And we'll start with top finals contender. I think that the LA Clippers, to me, are the top finals contender. I think that they not only have the depth, but they also have the bench. I think big players like Zubac, Beverly, Shamet are big bench players. I think Kawhi will continue to be one of the best, if not the best, 1-2-way player in the game. And I think they'll make more noise with a good lineup and a good depth.
So you're not worried at all about their wing depth? I mean, you were talking about Shamet, Zubac, Beverly. I mean, that's two guards and a center.
Right.
What about their wing depth? Are you worried there at all?
I think that they have wing depth, but I also think they have good post depth, like Harrow. I think he really showed out last year. I think he's a great post player, and I think he's really going to improve more this season.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of wing depth, I think when you add Mo Harkless, Terrence Mann through the draft, and I think the thing I like with the Clippers a lot is they have the perfect setup. Around Kawhi, around Paul George, they have the right players. Patrick Beverly, Landry Shamet, they're that 3-and-D mold that you love. Then in today's game, you really need depth. Lou Williams and Mo Harkless, 2 six-man candidates last year.
Absolutely. I mean, Mo Harkless is going to contribute a lot to that team off the bench. He's going to be a great defender for them. He's very versatile. That's one of the wings that's going to fit in there on the bench alongside Zubac. And, of course, you already have Lou Williams and Patrick Beverly. That's great. You have two of the best wing players in the game in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So, I mean, they really are set. Now, in terms of my pick for top finals contender, it's not as – I would think it's actually more so star-studded than the Clippers is the Philadelphia 76ers. These guys, for the longest time, the issue was that it was trust the process. They were young. Well, the process is now officially over. Jimmy Butler's gone to the Miami Heat, kind of forced into the fire, if you could say. Kawhi's out of the Eastern Conference. I think that's a big plus for them. Obviously, that's who they lost to in the Eastern Conference semis was the Toronto Raptors, eventual champion Toronto Raptors. It's an easier path to the finals now with teams losing depth in the Eastern Conference. Some have gained it, like the Indiana Pacers, but for the most part, most teams have lost that valuable depth. Now, depth for the Sixers is a little bit of a concern for me. I'm looking at their second unit. I have their second unit as Raul Neto, Zaire Smith, James Ennis, Jonah Bolden, and Kyle O'Quinn. It's not the greatest on paper. It can get better as the season progresses, obviously. I think they're definitely lacking some shooting there, but Zaire Smith is that X factor. I think if he has a great year, we could see him average 13, 14 points a game off the bench. That'd be great for them. He was a great prospect coming out of Texas Tech. They're my sleeper. I mean, not even sleeper. They're just my bona fide strongest contender just because of the starting five they have. They have Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, Joel Embiid. There's playoff experience there. There's a winning pedigree. I think they're all elite athletes and great shooters for their positions. Outside of Ben Simmons, which was my last little topic of discussion there, I think we're going to finally see Ben Simmons debut a jumper this year. It may not be good. I'm not saying he'll make it, but I think he's going to start taking them, which is great for the Sixers because all you need is some extra confidence for him to at least start taking those shots, and you become a much better overall team. But Sadeep, who do you have as your contender?
So I actually had the 76ers.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, some of the same reasons. But for me, I look at the Toronto Raptors from last year. They won because they built a new blueprint, right? They built a blueprint of versatility, defense, and length. The Sixers have 5 players. All 5 of their starters are above 6'6".
Yeah.
4 of them above 6'9". So what that does is in today's NBA, you build defenses that are switch heavy, that can cover everything. Because help defense is everything nowadays. This isn't 20 years ago where just one-on-one games, right?
Yeah,
everything
absolutely.
everything is team-orientated. And what the 76ers are doing is building a blueprint similar to Toronto, right? They get the defense, they get the length, they have the passing, they have the team effort. And with Ben Simmons, let's hope he can shoot threes, but let's remember, everyone else can.
Yeah, everyone else can.
Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
And with those guys, you have a bunch of guys that can take on different roles. We've seen Richardson as a complementary role. We've seen him as a star.
Yeah.
Same thing with Tobias. Same thing with Al Horford, who can dribble the ball, point forward. Joel Embiid. And you have a bunch of guys that can do a bunch of different things. Yeah, the bench is a little concerning.
It
Raptors,
is.
On Raptors too last year.
Yeah, it was.
On paper, it wasn't the best. But because they had the right system, they could work it out, right? They could start staggering minutes, which is what I expect Brett Brown to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to go along with that point too, we saw, obviously Pascal Siakam have a great year, breakout year. The player I'm looking at, and I'm going to be big on him this year. I'm expecting a lot of things is Derrick Smith.
Right,
I
yeah.
really think he's going to have a good year. And this guy was a lottery pick for a reason.
Right.
Injuries have derailed his rookie season, but I think he's going to be right back on track. He's a great athlete. He's a great shooter, so he should be lights out.
Right. Yeah. Coming out of Texas Tech, Zaire Smith was that guy. The athleticism was off the charts. You hope his development can take a step forward, but development is something you can never really predict. It's only a correlation, right?
Yeah.
So that's something you kind of have to look with the Sixers. But I believe, even if it's nothing crazy, just having 3-and-D guys in the room, having enough depth, will make that happen.
Awesome. And Matt, what's going to be the next subject we're going on to?
Who was y'all's sleeper finals team?
I think for me, the sleeper finals contender is the Denver Nuggets. Now, they went 7 games against Portland last year. They battled hard. They fought. I thought it was a really good series. I think they have still a deep roster. We've talked about Jokic, the year that he's having. He really has great experience on the court, can score, can pass, can rebound. I think he's a great player that can do it all. Jamal Murray is a young player that I think is going to continue to get better. Paul Millsap and his veteran experience that really helped last year, and I think he can grow the team more this year. The most improved player on this team, I really think, is kind of bold, but I think Torrey Craig could really be the most improved player on this team, giving the roster some balance and giving the good leadership to this team. I think he can really improve this team on really the defensive side, but I think he can really get this team better and kind of limit, the big minutes for Millsap and Jokic to offer. I think he can take some of the pressure off.
Do you think that Michael Porter Jr. can stay healthy?
That's a tough thing.
It's a big X factor though, because if he can, that's a great wing piece for them.
I really hope he can, and that's really tough to tell. But I think if he can grow, and I think if he can have some experience, I think he can really grow with this team too.
He could definitely contribute on a higher level. I mean, this guy was, he was a slam dunk number 1 overall pick for years. I mean, for years, this guy was the number 1 pick in that draft. And, obviously the back injuries derailed him. He fell into the back end of the lottery to the Nuggets. And, unfortunately, I was super excited to see him play last year, and it just didn't work out. But hopefully he can this year, because he would be an amazing talent. I think his fit on a lot of NBA teams is iffy, because he's a point forward, but his shot, it's there, but they had questions about it, if it was that consistent. He's just really athletic. He's so versatile, and he's so big, 6'9", for a small forward shooting guard prospect. That's great. That's what you want in the modern NBA. Right. He's such a great piece next to Jokic too, so that's a big X factor there as well. I like the Torrey Craig though, because he doesn't get much love at all amongst NBA fans. So that's definitely a nice sleeper.
Well, I saw him as more of a hustle player last year, right? But I think he's more of a defensive hustle player that can really take some pressure off this team, and they can score too. I have no problem.
Right? Yeah. You talk about Torrey Craig. Starts on defense, right?
Yeah.
But I think the thing about the Nuggets last year, they showed that they were the deepest team in the NBA.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Nuggets, they started so hot because of the defense.
Yeah.
Like everyone forgets, right? Before they went in the slump, before they kind of became the bad Nuggets, to begin the season, they were elite defensively. And that's what really fueled them. Even when they were losing player after player, they got it done with depth, they got it done with defense. And the Nuggets have to get back to that to become that finals team. But they definitely have the pieces. And people forget, right? Michael Porter. And now they got Bol Bol.
Yeah, well, I mean,
if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, they have the two biggest. Yeah, I mean, in terms of injury X factors, if those two are healthy, they're great basketball players, like amazing basketball players. Like their potential is limitless. They could be all-stars in the NBA, but those are two of the biggest health question marks we've probably seen in the last back-to-back drafts. Is Michael Porter Jr. and now Bol Bol.
I mean, big prospects.
Yeah, I mean they're huge prospects, but they had such big health question marks that people didn't even have them on the draft board. I know multiple teams did not even have Bol Bol on the draft board at all. They would have let him go undrafted. So that's crazy that happens. But the Nuggets have 2 of those guys, surprisingly. So they're that make or break team where if those injuries, if they're able to correct those. I mean, they're slam dunk, championship favorites. They supplant the Philadelphia 76ers, the LA Clippers in my mind. Although they're young players, they can contribute at that high of a level almost immediately. I'm moving over to mine. So the Nuggets, I was going to say them, but I can't consider them a true sleeper because they were the number 1 overall seed. I'm looking at it and I'm like, I can't say you're a sleeper if everybody knew how great you were at some point last year. I mean, you lost in Game 7 too, by the way, to Portland. It's not like you lost in 4 or 5 games. This team was on the brink of making it to the Western Conference Finals, and in my opinion, they would have beat the Warriors in the Western Conference
And
Finals.
they were at home, too, in Game 7.
Yeah.
So you would have thought they would have had it for sure.
I was definitely disappointed in the outcome there, but the great news about the Nuggets is they're still a relatively young team, and Jokic is in his mid-20s, and Jamal Murray is still relatively young, too, in his early 20s. So, I mean, this team's core is very young still. It's just going to continually getting better. Moving on to mine, I have the Utah Jazz. So, I mean, this is a team, I'm not going to say I'm a Jazz fan, but I love what the Jazz do. I mean, they built their team the right way, and man, I think they're going to have a great year. Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, oh my goodness, Joe Ingles, and then Rudy Gobert in the paint. You did exactly what you had to do, because Rudy Gobert in the modern NBA, you don't think it works. Like, he can't shoot, he's big, he's more of the traditional NBA center from the 90s, the 80s. You don't think that's going to work. But they built it the right way because they just surrounded him with all shooting. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's three-pointer is still a little suspect. He shoots in the low 30s. But, I mean, Conley's a great three-point shooter. Bogdanovic's a great three-point shooter. Ingles is an amazing three-point shooter. So you did exactly what you needed to do to surround Rudy Gobert with shooting. And they did it perfectly. I think they're one of the favorites. The thing about it, too, is what makes him such a sleeper in my mind is Gobert. I think Gobert is a top 3 center in the NBA, but you won't hear a lot of people say that because nobody appreciates defense. This guy is probably the best defensive center we've seen since Dwight Howard. When Dwight Howard was, Orlando Dwight Howard. This guy could stop anybody. And it's the same thing with Gobert. I mean, people are so afraid to drive into the paint against Utah that they have to exploit the three-point line against them. Like, they won't drive in the paint against him. He's that big of a presence. And again, the issue with the Jazz is a little bit geared like the same. I'm a big depth guy. I love depth because if you have injuries, you can rely on your depth. When your starters are getting tired in the playoffs and you're deep in the playoffs, you can rely on depth. It's what the Toronto Raptors did this year.
Exactly.
I love the theory of having a great bench. That's where I'm a little iffy on the Jazz. Now, they had some great pickups. They got Emmanuel Mudiay on a minimum deal. They got Ed Davis on a very small deal as well, and Jeff Green. I mean, they got 3 big contributors for that bench team. I mean, they're older, and, Moody is not, but he's not the greatest scorer in the world. He's not the greatest shooter. But they have Dante Exum, they have Royce O'Neal to complement those guys. I think it's athletic enough to work. I think it's experienced enough to work. And I really do think that this team could make the NBA Finals. It wouldn't shock me whatsoever.
I think it starts with the defense, right? With the
Absolutely.
Jazz. The thing they've had the past couple of years is that defense. And that's what's fueled them. That's what kept them against the Houston Rockets, no matter how bad their offense is. And now you add the pieces that you need, not only multiple ball handlers like Bogdanovic, like Ingles, like Donovan Mitchell, and Mike Conley, but now you also add shooting. They're not just ball handlers that can score, that can drive, but they can also shoot. And that changes everything for the Jazz.
What about you? Who is your sleeper finals team?
The Boston Celtics.
Oh, my goodness.
Listen, so it sounds ridiculous,
Does
right?
that count as a sleeper?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
They lost Terry Rozier.
Yeah.
They lost Marcus Morris. They lost Al Horford. And they lost Kyrie Irving.
Yes,
So who do they have?
They lost an entire
Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Jason Tatum. If I took that team and put them on the Phoenix Suns, everyone would be calling them, they're the next Finals contender, they're the future, right? But because they lost all these pieces, people forgot how deep they were, right? They already had the pieces, and let's not forget Brad Stevens, one of the best coaches.
Amazing.
And he's not just one of the best coaches. He's one of the few genius coaches out there, right? Like a Greg Popovich, like a Steve Kerr. Guys with X's and O's who just make players better. And the Celtics, they lost it a little bit with the defense, but they can bring that back with Brad Stevens, with this lineup, and they can get back to playing Celtics ball, team ball, which they kind of they were all looking for a role, right? Gordon Hayward wasn't sure what to do. Jaylen Brown was losing it. Jason Tatum, they all kind of took steps back because nobody really knew what was going on in Boston last year. And it just felt like they weren't that same team, the same team that took LeBron to 7 games. Right?
Yeah, it was incredible.
And that was without Gordon Hayward, without Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Now you get those pieces back. And in the front court, it's a little bit concerning without Al Horford, without Aaron Baines. But you have Robert Williams out of Texas A&M, who I believe is a lottery pick or just outside of it.
He's just outside, but I mean, the guy has lottery talent for sure.
He was 6'9", 7'6" wingspan. He has the ability to develop into something special.
Yeah.
Brad Stevens, great player developer. And Enes Kanter, a very underrated player for most of his career.
Yeah.
Maybe not in defense, but he's a very good, he can score in the offense, a pick and roll, post up a little bit. So I think the Celtics team has enough. And if they can get back to it, they could win.
I think that Walker's going to be a much better fit for those young guys than Kyrie Irving was.
Exactly.
I mean,
from a culture standpoint. Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, my favorite team's Charlotte. It's not good. I mean, I'll go on for days and days about how bad the Hornets are. But the one thing I loved about Walker is that, he didn't mind the losing. He embraced the culture of the team. He embraced being a part of the team. He loves being with those young guys. I think he's going to have a great effect on Brown, great effect on Tatum. Kyrie Irving kind of came in there, and I'm not going to say he's not a leader. He's a leader in a different way. Walker's the vocal leader. Kyrie's more so the take a step back, let everybody figure it out, and then I'm gonna be the closer. Like I'm gonna close the game for us, but I'm not gonna be vocal about it. And the Celtics really needed that vocal leader last year. That's what
you didn't have someone to step up.
Yeah, exactly.
And Kyrie's the kind of guy who leads by example, much like Durant. And then you kind of sometimes you need that vocal leader, right? Which Kawhi obviously he's a little more lead by example, but he's not gonna mess things up. He's not gonna go to the press. He's not gonna say anything. Guys like LeBron, right? You want those vocal leaders to bring everything back together.
I think Kemba's going to be great for that team. I think he's going to do wonders with Brad Stevens. His defense is he's not the greatest defender just because of his size, but I think that he can be. He does exert way more energy than Kyrie Irving does on that side of the ball.
And we think about Isaiah Thomas, right? Not great because of his size, but he put in the effort. And that's why they were the best defensive team with Brad Stevens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's those two great points. I think that it's going to be a really good team. I don't know. I'm still a little iffy if they'll make the finals because I think that the depth on the 76ers is going to be so hard for anybody to beat on the Eastern Conference.
That's what makes it tough. But if the Celtics can put it together, especially on defense, they've shown the ability to take down teams that they should be nowhere close to.
I mean,
that's what changes everything.
Absolutely, and they do have the small ball factor too. So that's the one thing Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia, but if somebody runs small ball on them, they can be beat. There is a fatal flaw there, and it's that everybody's so big that when you run out these smaller lineups, it's kind of like how the Warriors won their first championship. They ran out small ball. They took out Bogut. They put in Dre at center. If the Celtics were to find a way to do something like that, I don't know if they have the piece to put at that small ball 5 right now. Jason Tatum can't do it. They need to find somebody else to fill that role. Maybe a Robert Williams.
Say Williams comes out and starts shooting threes out of nowhere.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We don't know.
But
those becomes a better shooter. I mean, maybe who knows?
Absolutely, you just need somebody from the 5 spot to be able to spread the floor, and maybe they can find that through a trade this season. Hopefully, I mean, Brad Stevens still has a pretty big treasure trove of draft picks, so hopefully he can make a deal.
Let's remember who they drafted. Carson Edwards, stud at Purdue.
Oh, absolutely.
The question is defense, but he can score the ball. And Grant Williams, a little undersized, but he's an immediate contributor, and he's a hard worker.
And I actually really like the comparison of him to Draymond. I mean, he's not exactly Draymond Green, but the guy is so versatile at the 3, 4, 5 spots.
With the hard working, with the undersized, him and Admiral Schofield, right? Tennessee, we knew about how hard of workers they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they're definitely going to be good contributors. Moving on to the next one. Where are we going to go next, Matt?
Who's y'all's most impactful free agent signing?
Man, I think it was pretty simple for me because just from what everyone was talking about last summer, I have to say Kawhi, not Leonard. When he was with the Raptors, they were obviously a different team. They were led well, and they, of course, ending with a championship. And now they're a different team without him, of course. So the Clippers are going to be adding to that culture because you would think that in 2012, 2013, in the Chris Paul era, you really think that they could have won a championship. They had the pieces. They had Paul, Redick, DeAndre Jordan, everything they needed around him. But now with this All-NBA talent, you would think that the Clippers are now a different team and they have a different culture. And for the longest time, it's like everyone was like, where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? Everyone was speculating, where's he going to go? Like he had to hold off even for a day or two to say, I'm gonna wait out to tell you all where I'm going to go. I think he's going to impact the Clippers in a positive way. And what it means for Toronto, I think Fred VanVleet's he's going to play some more minutes. He's more of a clutch bench player. But I think the Toronto season is kind of still up for grabs. But he is, to me, the most impactful free agent by far.
I think I can't see Sadiv's sheets, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a clean sweep here. I went with Kawhi Leonard as well. I mean, being from Los Angeles, you were talking about the Lob City Clippers.
Right.
Man, those teams were, looking back at it, how talented were those teams? It's ridiculous that they never made an NBA Finals. But I'll tell you this, though. For the Clippers being the little brother to the Lakers, I mean, they're always going to be that. Even Steve Ballmer knows it. Doc Rivers knows it. They're always going to be the little brothers out there.
Sure.
So you'd want to adapt to leaders who are more on the quiet side. Now, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, they weren't that at all. Like they were Laker players in a Clipper uniform, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that from a culture standpoint, again.
Absolutely. 100%. Now, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, I mean, these are Clipper players. Like these guys are quiet leaders. They're great guys. They lead by example. They're hard work, and it kind of just embodies what the Clippers wanted to actually do in the Lob City era.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So I think they're going to do great. Yeah.
Sometimes, locker room culture is just as important as what you produce on the court. All right, when you talk about the Clippers, talk about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. You get the right type of stars, right? You get the right type of superstars who are going to be willing to take on different roles with the depth.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they're going to fit extremely well. You know, I had to hear just a couple points on them. You know, the great thing about the Clippers, I think, is really unique. Because I didn't see this on the, you know, obviously the Raptors just won the championship, and you know, even the Warriors, when they were in their full strength, I didn't see this many people. But I think there are truly 3 elite second options, like 3 guys where I am so confident taking the last shot in the game, and that's Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Lou Williams.
No question.
Even when the Warriors were at full strength, I couldn't tell you there was 3. I mean, I'd say Steph Curry and KD, but it'd be a little iffy if it were Clay. It's definitely iffy if it's Draymond. These guys are cold-blooded with 2 minutes left in the ball game. They are killers. So the fact that they have 3 of those guys to trot out, and you don't mind having Williams out there because you have the defense of Paul George and Kawhi. Like, this is killer. I think that there's not going to be a single team that can beat them going into the fourth quarter if it's a close game. They just have too many closers on that team, and it's wonderful for them. I said it, you know, right now, I think Kawhi Leonard and Paul George could, you know, potentially on the same team average 25 points a game each other, like individually. In terms of I think right now in the NBA they're the best defensive wing duo. But I think we have to look all time. After this season, if they go deep in the playoffs, we're going to have to start talking all time almost immediately. I mean, looking at Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, looking at Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. And by the time Dwayne Wade partnered with LeBron, he wasn't the greatest defender anymore. So these guys could be like the second best duo defensively, wing pairing, ever. Like they're just that, they just have the potential to be that great. Who do you have as the most potential?
They both definitely put in all the effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. But for me, I have Jimmy Butler.
Interesting.
just solely based on impact on a team.
Yeah.
Not just this will turn this into a finals contender, but as this will impact the team the most. Like we talked the Jazz, except like with the Jazz a little different because they had Donovan Mitchell, but the Miami Heat have never had that star. At least not since Dwayne Wade was doing it and Chris Bosh and LeBron. But now they add Jimmy Butler. They've had the defense, they've had the depth, and that's what the great part about Eric Spoelstra. But now you add Jimmy Butler, who's a bona fide star, and more importantly, from a culture standpoint, this guy wants to be the star.
Yes.
He wants to be the alpha dog. And he is, right? At his best, he's a 25, 5-5 guy. He puts up the numbers, and he adds to the culture of the Miami Heat, right? The defense. And that was really, like, the telling part. Even if they lost a couple of players here and there, Jimmy Butler will elevate this team. He'll add to the defense. He'll score, and he'll create for this team, and he'll make this Miami Heat team actually a very impactful, a surprising team.
I mean, when you talk about free agents and their fits, typically you'll see like articles online, a lot of fans talking about, hey, this guy would fit in this culture perfectly. Now, it's just fans talking. It never actually happens. This was one of those rare scenarios where, I mean, everybody knew Jimmy Butler's work ethic, how he operates, the no-nonsense approach. That's Pat Riley. That's the Miami Heat's organization to a T. So everybody's like, wow, he'd be perfect there. And you think, I personally thought he was going to stay in Philly, but it made so much sense. I just thought they're going to overthink it somehow. He's not going to go there.
That makes sense. And the work ethic, people forget because of all the drama, right? But the work ethic is there. This guy is one of the hardest working players in the NBA, self-made. Coming out of college, all he was just defense, length, and athleticism. But he built that into a real star caliber player. But also the drama, right? The ego. We talk about Jimmy Butler, we have to talk about the drama, right?
There's a big ego there.
Yeah, no question. But Miami's used to that.
They are.
They've had a LeBron James, right? They can take that in. And I think it'll fit perfectly.
I think it will too. Where are we going next, Matt?
Who's y'all's most underrated signing?
Most underrated signing. You want to kick it off?
Most underrated signing.
I can start it off for you.
Why don't you start?
Perfect. I have Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose. You know, some people might disagree. You know, this guy got signed for 2 years, $15 million. I'm calling it right now. That's a steal. It's a bargain. $7.5 million a year for Derrick Rose. And I mean, Derrick Rose 3 years ago, I'm a little iffy. I mean, he was still recovering from like ACL surgeries. His confidence was low. This guy got it back in Minnesota. What? I'm not saying he got it completely, but he's not MVP Derrick Rose, but you'd see like every other game, every other 3 games, he'd get that lightning in a bottle again. It was so fun to watch. I mean, Derrick Rose's MVP season, that was one of the best seasons of all time from a point guard. It was amazing. I think that he's going to bring that back to the Pistons. I think it's a great team to go with. Dwayne Casey did great things with Kyle Lowry. In Toronto, Kyle Lowry. I'm not a Lowry fan at all, if you can't tell. So the fact that he did amazing things with Lowry in Toronto, I'm expecting amazing things from Rose. I mean, I don't know if he'll get to 20 points a game, but I could see him in the high teens for sure. We could be seeing him, if I had to guesstimate, I'd say around 17 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, but a starting caliber point guard for sure. I mean, all-star reserve, maybe not, but just a starting caliber point guard for a playoff team, which I think the Detroit Pistons are going to be. I was very, very disappointed in the Stan Van Gundy era.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to do much better.
Yeah.
I think Dwayne Casey's brought in a much better attitude going into it.
Yeah.
This team is talented. Look, there's no reason why a team with Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin, now you have Derrick Rose on there. They don't have that other star, but I think Derrick Rose can become that with confidence, which is what Detroit has basically shown in him. He said, you can be our starting guard. And, plus, too, if you're talking about replacement, Jimmy Butler's great. Like, going into the situation, Jimmy Butler's much better than Josh Richardson. Right. Derrick Rose is leaps and bounds better than Reggie Jackson. And I'm not a Reggie Jackson hater. A lot of people don't like Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't mind Reggie. He's not bad. Like he's a bench player for sure. He's like a Terry Rozier, but he's not a starter. Right. Like Rozier going to Charlotte, that's a whole other subject. But like Derrick Rose is leaps and bounds better than he is. Yeah. And what's awesome too is I was looking at his stats from last year. Derrick Rose shot 37% from three last year. Isn't that great? Because that was the knock, was always that he didn't have the most consistent three-point shot. He shot 37%. And albeit he only played 51 games. Health is always going to be a concern, especially after those knee injuries. Well, not even knee injuries. He just gets hurt, and he's a very injury-prone player. But the fact that he shot 37, that gives me hope. If he can get in the 40s, my goodness, if you would have told me back in 2011 that Derrick Rose would eventually shoot 40% from three, that's the best point. One of the best point guards, probably top 5 ever. He was just that talented. So if he can get back there, I truly believe that him adding that shot, that three-point shot, will justify his lack of athleticism that he used to have, and it'll make up for it as a player.
We'll talk about that 51-point performance we saw last year. I think talk about boosting confidence. Talk about coming back. I think he's back. I think he can really add some veteran experience to this team.
Absolutely.
And he can definitely add to, I think, what could be another playoff team.
Right, yeah, so Derrick Rose, he's not the MVP caliber player, but he really reinvented himself in Minnesota, right? And I've been saying for a lot of years that Derrick Rose, the reason he kept getting hurt is because he tried to beat Derrick Rose, which kind of sucks because the best trait about him was the athleticism. But what I said and what he should have done, or what I said he should have done, was that he's got to start doing what Chris Paul did. He's got to develop the mid-range game, he's got to develop the jump shot, and use the outside to get inside. And that's a strategy that kind of gets guys healthier. And as he did with the three-point shot, he got a lot better at that. And now Derrick Rose is a much better player. Is he going to start over Reggie Jackson?
I hope so. I truly do think so.
So here's the thing. If he doesn't, honestly, it would be not better, but it's fine if he doesn't. Because I'll tell you why. The Detroit Pistons, for how talented they are, they're very top-heavy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Their depth
Andre
is not
Drummond,
good.
Blake Griffin, Reggie Jackson, and then you have a bunch of scrubs.
Yes.
Like, frankly,
Well, you know who I do like, though? I love their first-round pick, Sekou Doumbouya.
Yeah.
I love him. He's 18 years old, like 6'11", can shoot the three. That guy's great. But like 5 years from now.
Right, exactly, That's the thing, right? Another development piece.
Yeah.
But now you get Derrick Rose, who can not only come off your bench and play point guard, he can start. He can also come off your bench and play the two guard. And that gives you that wing depth that you need if you're the Pistons.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of what does it for the Pistons. That's what will kind of help them. It's a very underrated signing, I agree.
Who is your most underrated signing?
Wasn't that guy?
It wasn't that guy. Who was it?
JJ Redick.
Oh, wow. I was thinking about him. Yeah. He's going to do great things in New Orleans.
Here's the thing. It's not a signing. People almost forgot that he left the Sixers. That was one of the lesser news of the offseason.
Absolutely.
But here's why I love it. You have a very young team, right? Around Lonzo, around Drew Holiday, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, obviously, and Jackson Hayes. What you don't have, besides kind of from Drew Holiday, you don't have the shooting.
No.
Right? And you're driving in with Lonzo Ball, with Zion Williamson. You want that guy to kind of spread the floor like you did with Ben Simmons, right? Which kind of negated the lack of a jump shot a little bit. And now Zion kind of gets that same treatment, having JJ Redick next to him.
Yeah. No, JJ Redick's going to be a great complimentary piece. The great things he did in LA, they can definitely replicate here in New Orleans. Because in all reality, it's very similar in terms of the schemes. I mean, you had the pick and roll of Chris Paul. I mean, obviously they're more talented and more seasoned back then, but Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. To a lesser extent, you now have a very young version of that in Lonzo Ball, Jackson Hayes, and Zion Williamson. Literally, their strengths are almost identical. So now you add in a JJ Redick piece who can shoot it from out, you can kick out too. Lonzo's going to love him.
Exactly.
He had nobody like that with the Lakers.
Exactly, yeah. for both these teams, it was kind of the problem, right? Lack of shooting. But now, the Pelicans team, it's I like what the Pelicans are doing a lot,
I
right?
do,
With
yeah.
Alvin Gentry, they're gonna run fast pace. They're young. They're gonna run. That's the main thing, right? And these guys love transition. We know Ingram, we know Ball, we know Zion,
Yeah.
Jackson Hayes, athletic. Everyone loves transition on that team. But when they get in the half court, you cannot be struggling in today's NBA, right? There's more than just transition. You can't win at transition, right? You need to work in the half court, and JJ Redick helps you there a lot.
Now I'm going to ask you this real quick. It's a little off topic from the underrated signing, but how do you think that that up-tempo offense is going to affect Zion Williamson? Do you think that because for me, the cause for concern is that the injuries.
Right.
He's so athletic. He has so much balance. If you put him in that system for the first 4 or 5 years of his career, are you shortening his career? Are you potentially opening the gate to a major injury that could derail his career?
I mean, the fast pace I think is perfect because that's what they did at Duke, right? That's kind of part of what negated the lack of shooting, the lack of half-court prowess that people don't really talk about at Duke.
Yeah.
And Zion could dominate in transition, right?
Absolutely.
As a passer, as
Absolutely.
a scorer, there's no question there. Yes, injury, but I think injury is going to be based on his weight and based on conditioning, right? Because not even for he's overweight, it's he plays so hard,
Yeah.
right? And it's great because when do you ever see superstars jumping? You've never seen Kevin Durant, LeBron James dive on the court for a ball, right? Zion Williamson does those kind of things.
Yeah.
You remember when he ripped that ball out from Kevin
Yeah.
Knox? Like that just tells you what kind of player, what kind of work ethic, what kind of heart he has for the game, which is great. But at the same time, that's something that could kind of get the injury.
I agree with you on the conditioning. I mean,
Yeah.
this guy's going to be running a lot in New Orleans,
Yeah,
and
no question.
he's just, and it's not even to his own fault. He's just a big
Yeah.
guy. I mean,
and he loves the game.
yeah. Oh, he is a fan
wants
encapsulated
to.
as a
Yeah.
player. Like he loves basketball
Right.
so much. That's why everybody loves him. It's because you can see yourself in Zion Williamson. He's talking about how he's he was in his press conference the other day talking about how giddy he is. He's in 2K.
Yeah.
Like he's all of us.
yeah.
If we were a player, like he's a fan in a player's body.
When he ripped his shoe, every
Yeah.
fan speculated he should never play a game. He said, "No, I'm playing."
Yeah.
Because he loves the game.
He loves it
He would
so
never
much.
step away.
Such passion for
Yeah.
someone so young.
Exactly.
I love it. And I even have a kind of not very much of an underrated signing, but I think a very impactful signing, and I think it's D'Angelo Russell, right? Because we're not going to see Clay for a while. I think even in the finals we saw some plays where we saw 2 shooters and then 3 rebounders. We saw like a Quinn Cook, Curry, and then the other players were like Bogut, Green, and McKinnon, right? So I think he could really be impactful for the shooting game, and I think he's impactful for this team as well, for the culture of Steve Kerr
Yeah.
and the Golden State
I
Warriors.
mean, hats off to the Warriors for making do with the lack of shooting last year.
Yeah.
With the injuries, they really still played Warriors ball. Warriors ball is not shooting. It's hard work.
Yep.
It's team ball,
Passing.
and it's passing.
Yeah.
Yes. And they made it work. But in today's NBA, it's almost like the monster they've created. They've created this spacing shooting that you need to have, and if they don't, teams are just going to play help defense. So D'Angelo Russell steps into that role and helps a lot. And even when Clay comes back, Russell can play the 2.
Yeah,
For sure.
No,
Yeah.
I loved how you see the article. I mean, Kerr and GM Bob Myers just basically they didn't guarantee it, but they said, "Hey, Russell's part of our long-term plans." I don't know why everybody keeps speculating
exactly.
we're going to trade
Yeah.
him, but he's here for the long haul, which is great because I really questioned D'Angelo Russell coming into the league. I thought his immaturity issues were going to show, and they did. But he's
he got
matured
better.
leaps and bounds. I mean, he's such a good player, and man, I can't think of learning directly from Curry. When Curry does decide to retire, that's the perfect guy to take over.
No,
Is
for
going to
sure.
be D'Angelo Russell. So that's going to be an exciting team
my
for sure.
only question is the defense.
Yeah, I mean it's never going to be great.
But what I love is these guys play hard, right? Steph Curry, lack of defense, he still plays very, very hard. And Steve Kerr is one of the best defensive coaches in the NBA,
Yeah.
right? His scheme, his help defense, with Draymond Green there, it's the pieces are still there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much one player is really going to affect everything, right? But that's something to kind of look at.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
teams will take on the Rockets, obviously, one-on-one matchups, right?
Yeah.
Now you don't just have Steph Curry to abuse, you have D'Angelo Russell, right?
It's
You
gonna
see
be
James
tough.
Harden just going one-on-one, nice, so step back. Let's see.
We'll see. I mean, it's going to be. You talking about ISO ball? Houston's
Right.
going to play a lot of that.
Right.
Matt, what's our next subject we got going on?
Who do you guys have winning Rookie of the Year?
Rookie of the Year. I think it's pretty simple to me if he lives up to the hype. We were just talking about his passion. We were just talking about his game, how he doesn't care. He just wants to play his own game. I'd say Zion Williamson,
Saw
right?
that coming.
Yeah. I think he lives up to the hype. And I think he's actually put a few pounds on him, right? I think I saw a picture of him where he was just flexing. I'm
My
like,
goodness,
man,
he's big.
you put on a few pounds.
Yeah.
Like, so it gives me a boost of confidence too that he's kind of like what we're expecting, right? Everybody's saying, oh, the next, LeBron and all that, the next big star. I think he's got some confidence that he's got on him for sure. And I think that if he falls apart or gets injured or one or the other, maybe you look at Morant and say he could be a close number or a close sleeper, you would think. But I think that Williamson could live up to the hype, and eventually he will.
I'm super excited. I'm ecstatic that Zion Williamson is in the NBA. If for no other reason, because it has been a long time since we've seen a bigger individual dominate a superstar. Look, like Charles Barkley did it. Like he's big. He wasn't the biggest guy, and he had a big build, but he was dominant. We finally have that because we haven't had that since Barkley retired. We really did. I thought Anthony Bennett was going to be that, and I thought Anthony Bennett was a slam dunk #1 overall pick, and I'll take that to my grave. That was the biggest mistake I've ever made in my entire life. But he seemed like he was going to be the next big thing. Larry Johnson 2.0, and just completely fizzled. The thing about Zion is he has so many other contributors in New Orleans. I don't know if he'll put up the stats to win Rookie of the Year, which it's unfortunate that you have to have the stats behind you because it should be based on how you contributed to your team your first year. If I don't care if Morant averages 20, if Zion averages 15, but he takes them to the playoffs, my goodness, that's such a better accomplishment. But it's all about the stats most of the time. And I think that's the reason why Morant's going to win it. Look, I was looking at their depth chart for the Memphis Grizzlies. Only person that's even going to compete with him for touches at the point guard position is Tyus Jones. Now, they also have Kyle Anderson, a point forward. He takes the ball a little bit, but they're not going to let a #2 overall pick not touch the ball.
For sure.
This guy's going to get it.
A lot of touches.
Absolutely. I think this guy, it's bold. I mean, to say he'll do this well off the bat, a lot of people have speculations because the level he played at Murray State. But I really do think that he's big time. I think that we could be looking at a over 20 point per game score as a rookie, a la Damian Lillard. I mean, I'm looking at the individual accolades and the comparisons. I love the Lillard comparison for Morant. Lillard stepped into the league, had LaMarcus Aldridge. I know that Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't a veteran. He's just in his sophomore year. But this guy's just as talented, if not more so, than Aldridge is. I love Triple J. Triple J is legit. And I think him with Morant's going to be an amazing duo in the pick and roll. And plus, they also have Brandon Clark, the Summer League MVP. They have DeLon Brooks as well. Jay Crowder. I didn't even know Jay Crowder was on the Grizzlies until the other day. I was looking at it, and I was like, wow, that's a great piece for a young team like that to learn from. I think that he's going to run away with it. I think we could be looking at 21 points per game, 8 assists per game, 3 rebounds per game, and around 2.5 turnovers per game. There's going to be hiccups, absolutely, just transitioning from Murray State to the NBA. But he's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to be, I don't want to say inflated stats, but he kind of has to. He's the only point guard on the team that's starting worthy. It's starter worthy. So, what about you?
Anthony Bennett?
I love Anthony Bennett. I won't be ashamed. I evaluated, and as a kid, I thought Bennett was, if you saw Anthony Bennett play at UNLV, and then you watched him compared to the NBA, it's like, what happened?
It's like a Kwame Brown, transitioning from high school.
Exactly.
It's so bad. It's like the monster stole his talent. I swear, he was so good at UNLV. I would watch those UNLV games. Not only would he dunk on the guy, but the next play he'd pull up from 2 feet behind the three-point line and sink it. He looked like Larry Johnson 2.0. I thought he was a slam. I mean, I remember being like, he's going to go #1, like a month before the draft. And my dad was like, that guy's like in the teens. I'm like, no, he's a good prospect. Well, I'll never live that down. It was the worst call I've ever made. Me and Grant, I think it was Chris Grant, the GM for the Cavaliers at that time, we both would have got fired for that pick because, man, I thought he was going to be good. But yeah.
So jokes aside.
Yeah.
So let me preface this by saying I love Zion. I love the hard work. I love the talent. And I love his work ethic, right? I love what he's going to put into the game. Now, that being said, talk about it with the opportunity, right? The lack of opportunity kind of is what will kind of take it away. But for me, it's Ja Morant.
Yeah.
Right? I love Ja Morant. I love his opportunity. He has enough pieces to help him with the Jay Crowder, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson, but nobody to take away.
No.
And we saw, he played at Murray State, but we saw a guy, just by watching him, who dominated, right?
Absolutely.
24.5 points per game, 10 assists at Murray State. And sure, it's not D1, it's not Power 5 conferences, but in college basketball, you play a lot of talented teams. And here's the thing, you can just watch him and you can see how talented he is. The shooting, the athleticism, the ability to get to the rim. Sure, he's got to put on some pounds. He's got a little bit of frame to build. He's a very talented player as a passer, as a scorer. He's absolutely elite. His passing is actually ridiculous. If you see some of
his
those,
vision is
if you see
insane.
some of those passes, you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous.
Yes. Like, how does he see that lane?
And the one thing with Moran that he's going to have to improve a little bit is decision making. It's not that he makes bad decisions. It's sometimes he tries to force things just to make that extra pass. Because, like Trae Young in Oklahoma. Like Trae Young in Oklahoma. It's some of the same things.
Yeah.
He wants to help his teammates. He wants to do those things. But he's got the raw talent. And now he gets into an even better, I think, a very good situation.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Grizzlies are building something special there.
Right.
Give it a couple more years, give it a couple more draft picks, they'll be there.
Exactly.
And one of the concerns about Moran is obviously coming from Murray State. But what people don't realize is, I mean, he was at Murray State.
Yeah.
Every team they played, they were double teaming him.
Oh, yeah,
They
for sure.
knew that's their guy.
Right.
He's a star
If
player.
you're at Kentucky, if you're at UNC, there's never double team. Like,
Yeah,
it's an
exactly.
open court.
Right.
Morant was facing double teams and still putting up 24 and 10.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
because that
20,
counted.
it's insane.
Yeah,
I-
no.
Impressive.
Now, if he flames out, he flames out. But my goodness, like the signs were there for him to be an amazing NBA player.
Yeah, he's got all the size, the tools to play either. And here's the thing: when I broke down his film and watched him, his IQ, his ability to make backdoor cuts, his ability to move without the ball will allow him to play the two guard. And versatility in today's NBA is upon the most important things.
Well, I think that's a great point, too. I mean, I think he could be a great shooter, but he also has the court vision IQ of someone I think of like Steve Nash.
Right. Exactly. And let's think about like Steph Curry in today's NBA, right?
Yeah.
He's a point guard, but he runs without the ball so much, right?
Yeah.
And that's what gets him so many open shots. And sure, the Grizzlies might not have a Draymond Green, but
Yeah, not yet.
But in today's NBA, you get so many guys who are so many big men who can pass, so many forwards who can pass. To have your guards be able to move without the ball is invaluable.
Yeah, and plus two, I mean, Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., he can actually hold the ball. His ball control isn't bad.
Exactly.
So, I mean, having that guy at the top of the post with Morant
exactly.
moving around, that's great. I mean, you're talking about Steph Curry with the off-ball movement. You know, y'all saw how Bleacher Report had him at number 7 overall of all time.
I believe so, yeah.
And everybody just had an uproar because they didn't think Curry should be that. I think he should because of the off-ball movement. Look, you see point guards that are great at being a point guard, but you don't see point guards who are great at everything else other than being. Steph Curry just plays basketball amazingly. He isn't just an amazing point guard. He's just an amazing basketball player.
Yeah.
He changed the game.
Right.
And people think he changed the game because of his shooting. No, he changed the game because of how he moves off the
Right.
ball.
Yeah.
Because if he couldn't move like he does, he couldn't get the shots that he does.
Right.
And that's what people don't realize.
Yeah, that's what people don't realize with how good that offense is and with how good he is. It's not just a product of the system. He makes a system and is a product at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? It's like he's changed the game, and it's worked perfectly because he's added elements that point guards have not had, but he's also fit in perfectly with what this team is trying to do. And it's kind of changed it. It's made teams adapt and made these point guards take on different roles.
Yeah. Sure.
That's why you need to shoot. That's why you need to be able to move.
Well, he also kind of reminds me of a Tony Bennett Virginia offense. Every time I watched Virginia in the March Madness tournament, it seemed like they would move off the ball. The guy, Jerome, Clark, they'd be moving just off the ball incredibly, and they would do it so well. And I'd be like, wow, this kind of reminds me of today's Golden State Warriors. This reminds me of Thompson. This reminds me of Curry. Like, this is great basketball.
Yeah, when you look at Kyle Guy, how many times was he running off the screen?
Yeah.
Just about every single play. And Ty Jerome, same thing.
Absolutely.
I'm not a fan of college basketball, but I got to tell you, watching that Virginia team this year was fun because they
was.
played an NBA-style basketball.
Right.
So many college basketball teams are stuck in this half court, and I'm not saying half court doesn't work. It does work. You have to at some point when the game slows down. But man, when your off-ball movement's on point like that, and you have everybody moving around, and the ball movement's effortless, it is something of. It is like it's an art. It makes basketball an art. Basketball isn't an art until you actually put in the work to make it one, and that's what Tony Bennett did, and that's why they won the championship. So I mean, questionable calls. I'll give them that. I mean, there were times where I thought it could have went the other way, but they did win. Going into the last section, what's that going to be for today, Matt?
Last section?
Yeah.
Well, are we skipping biggest rookie sleeper?
I think we can do that one.
All right,
Sure, absolutely.
Let's cover biggest
Okay, rookie
first,
sleeper, man. I think with the pieces around him, I really think he could succeed, and I think there's room for him to succeed. But my rookie sleeper is Tyler Harrow, right? Kentucky, balled out, averaged 14 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists at Kentucky. Only player to start all regular season games for the Wildcats. So his versatility is unmatched from any of the other players. Of course, you look at the other players, and they're great players. But I think that his depth really adds to the roster. I think was a difference maker at Kentucky. And it may take him a while to adjust, but I think he's quickly going to find his groove and his stride. Working with guys like Jimmy Butler, Dragic, I think that he's going to succeed.
Yeah, I love Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
When he came out of Kentucky, he came to this Miami team. He had the same draft spot as Donovan Mitchell.
You don't have to tell me.
Look how that turned out, right? Exactly.
Yeah, he has the athleticism. He plays hard on defense, and he can shoot out of the building. And Hero comes into without Josh Richardson, without Tyler Johnson, long gone. But now they don't have the depth they used to have, right? You add Tyler Hero, he has a chance to possibly start at point guard.
Yeah.
Too. He's got some of those skills.
He does.
He can move without the ball. He can score with the ball. He's not Donovan Mitchell, but he's going to be a very impactful player.
It breaks my heart that you guys are talking about Hero because I'm the biggest Hero fan. Everybody who knows me knows that. And like Sadeep mentioned, same spot as Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan. We passed on Donovan Mitchell. We passed on Devin Booker. We passed on Tyler Hero. He is going to fit the mold of another all-star guard. He may not do it his first year like Booker did. Like Mitchell did, but he will at some point. He's that talented. I don't know how he fell that low in the draft.
Yeah.
If this was 2003, I'd say that makes sense why he fell that low, but this is 2019.
Right.
What he does is
perfect.
what every team needs. How does he not go top 10 with the athleticism and the shooting form that he has?
Right.
He shot 92% for free throw last year in college as an 18-year-old. That's amazing.
Right.
I think he's going to be one of the best shooters the NBA has in the next 2-3 years. He's great. He's like an amped-up J.J. Redick. I compared him to Rex Chapman of the 90s. Really funny because the Hornets were, had him on their radar, and Rex Chapman's a former Hornet and said, he reminds me of me. And then a lot of fans were like, we don't want him then. And I'm like, what? He was a good player. He was like very, very good player. Averaged, in the teens almost his entire career. My sleeper is the guy in the picture next to Zion that has nobody covering him. Gaga Batadze. So if you don't know who he is, I don't blame you. He's the Indiana Pacers' first-round pick. He's a 7-foot center. This guy, he's most well-known because at some point during the NBA draft coverage, after the picks had gone through, everybody's covering Zion. There's like 50 media members surrounding Zion. And about 10 feet down is Goga, and he's just sitting there by himself. Not a single press person's covering. It was depressing. It was sad. As a fan, it was hard to watch, especially if you're a Pacers fan. You're like, man, that's my guy. We just drafted him, and nobody wants to cover him. It was horrible. Well, he's my sleeper. Why? Because if Miles Turner gets hurt, this guy's in a position to start. I mean, Domantas Sabonis, he's great. I think he's a power forward. You can play him at the 5, but he's more of a natural power forward. Goga, you can play him at the 5, and I think he's going to be the immediate backup for Turner there. Coming into the NBA draft, he was very skilled for his size, and not only that, his strength, his conditioning. He's a great athlete. He has a very, very soft touch around the rim. He's a good defender. He's not the greatest right now, but in my opinion, put him with an NBA training staff, and he can be a very good defender as well. This is a very good two-way big in the making. The Pacers are the perfect place for him because people are talking about this too. They don't know if the Sabonis and then Turner back front court's going to work long term because both of them are going to have to get big contracts. You have to wonder in the modern NBA, is it worth paying two big guys? That's a great guy because now, I don't know which one they're going to choose. I personally like Sabonis. But if, let's say they just made Turner expendable, now you can get assets. Now you can build your wing reserves because you lost Tyreek Evans for the year due to the suspension. So now you could actually look to move somebody like Turner, get some value back, and still have a young rookie who could contribute, I think, at a high level right off the bat. The guy played in pro league since he was a teenager. This guy has experience. I'm not saying he's Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is a different breed. He was MVP as a teenager playing against pro guys. But he still can. I mean, this guy still was a starter, still competed heavily, had starters minutes in the EuroLeague. So I look to him to be a surprise sleeper if he does get the chance to play heavy minutes.
Right, and I was a big fan of him coming out. Very highly skilled. I was not a fan of where he went, right, in Indiana. Not only because Miles Turner's already there, and that kind of becomes a problem. Now, that being said, they drafted him with the chance that, if Miles Turner does not develop, this is our future. Which is a great thought, right? Miles Turner, we kind of hoped year after year that he would take steps forward, right? He hasn't as much as we would have liked. And now you got this guy who's ready to take over. Put some pressure on Miles Turner, but also gives him the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Turner, like you said, he's become a mid-tier starter.
Right.
But I mean, people were
But yeah,
expecting
he has the potential.
star.
Right,
Like, they were,
especially after his second year. We're like, oh, this guy can take more and more leaps.
Yeah.
But he hasn't.
No, he just hasn't yet.
Yeah.
You got to wonder if, because he really is one of the better offensive options on
Right.
that team, especially last year with Victor Oladipo being out. I think he's a better player when when the pressure's not on him as the number one option.
Exactly.
So maybe with Oladipo back, maybe he'll take that step forward. Maybe it just depends. But if he doesn't, it's great that they have the insurance policy and go there.
Definitely.
So
For sure.
now, I'm sorry, now wrapping up that, what's going to be the last topic of the day?
Who's y'all's league MVP? Who do you
League
guys got winning?
MVP, man. It's too early to call, but I think this guy is going to have just a spectacular year. I think the pieces with D'Angelo Russell are around him, Clay's out, Steph Curry's going to go off. I think he's going to be the MVP. Now, I think we've seen his numbers also grow in the past 3 seasons, 25.3 to 26.4 to 27.3. I think this is the year where he can get back to 2014. Not that he's dropped off. Like, of course, we all know who Steph Curry is.
Yeah.
It'll change the game, three-pointers, yada, yada, yada. We all know that. But I think he still has the chance to grow and without his splash buddy. This is kind of comparing it to, like, Russell Westbrook, without Kevin Durant, right? Like, he really just went off in that 2016-17 season in his first year without Durant. Curry is the heart of the franchise, and we all know it. He won MVP with average good teams, but not superstar teams like Durant or Cousins, right? Because there was more to spread. There was more to, there's more to see in Durant and Cousins on that team. Thompson is still going to be there. He'll hoping to be back by All-Star break from the last time I heard.
Yeah.
But I think that this is the opportunity for Steph Curry to go off and be 15 Curry, 16 Curry again. And I think it's set. I think it's set for him to do it.
I absolutely agree with you. I think he's going to be in the contention for it. It's somebody that I really wasn't considering, but you're right. I mean, he's going to have a lot of opportunity. Steph Curry could honestly average 35, 36 points a game. He's that good, especially with with the options that are gone now. Like, he's just that great. Now, my issue though is I don't know if Steve Kerr will play him that many games if they're winning. Like, if they're winning and he sees, hey, I don't have Durant anymore. Draymond's declining. Clay's coming back after All-Star break, but he's coming back post ACL. We need to preserve Curry. He's our best player. We need to preserve. I don't know if he'll play enough games to win it, but he's going to be fantastic when he does play.
Oh, for sure.
Now, voter fatigue's a real thing, but we've seen Curry win it 2 times in a row. I think Giannis takes it again. I mean, the guy, he's called the Greek Freak for a reason. I'm not a Giannis total fanboy. I'm not, but my goodness, we've never seen Giannis. Tell me, as an NBA fan, you've never ever seen Giannis.
No, we've never seen him play like Giannis.
He just appeared out of he didn't appear out of nowhere, but I mean, he's crazy. When he first came into the NBA, I saw it. I was like, this guy could be Magic Johnson-esque, like that level of just unique versatility, and he's become that. And I honestly didn't think it was possible. I thought in my wildest dreams, yes, in 2K, yes, but not in real life. This guy has somehow become this player that nobody can figure out. He has, I mean, obviously the three-point shot isn't there yet, but if Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you love how I said Antetokounmpo, I've practiced that since I was like 13 years old. I love that guy.
Still saying Greek Freak.
Antetokounmpo, if he can add a three-point shot, is probably the best player in the NBA over KD, over LeBron James. I think he's that naturally talented. This guy is a Greek god. Like, he is Greek and he is a god. Like, that's just how he is made. And I think that he runs away with the MVP again. He has Chris Middleton back, but they lost a couple pieces. They lost Malcolm Brogdon. I think there's a little bit more weight on his shoulders because Brogdon was there during the regular season. He missed the playoffs, but he was there during the regular season. There's more pressure on Antetokounmpo to produce, and I think he's going to do it even more so. I mean, this is one of the only guys where I could conceivably say him getting 30 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists. Now, I'm not saying per night, but on any other night is a possibility, and that's insane because no human should be able to do that.
Right.
But he can.
Yeah.
He just can.
No, that's the thing, right? Yeah,
he's
when he
cheat code.
came into the league, he was never supposed to be this good, right? He could have been absolutely terrible and nobody would have known his name.
No.
But when you take his physical attributes, that's something you cannot teach.
No.
When you build on that, you create a player that's much better. Why is Kevin Durant's ceiling so much higher than Isaiah Thomas, right?
Yeah.
The height, the athleticism, those are things you can't teach. You could build onto it. And with Giannis, he's done that.
Yeah.
Now, my problem with Giannis is that it sounds ridiculous, but he can't close out a game. right?
He has troubles.
Yeah, and
he does.
it's the thing. Against Toronto, we saw it, and it comes down to shooting. If you can't shoot the ball, you can't close out a game, which is why we saw Chris Middleton take on a bunch of touches. And when you're Toronto, you just step back, let Giannis shoot the threes, and in clutch time, that's fine, right? If he makes it, he beats it, but most of the time he doesn't. So yeah, for Giannis to build on that three, that's kind of what'll make it the best player. Because had he had a three in the playoffs, they would have probably beat Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really amazing that we have two players in the modern NBA where if they had jump shots, oh my God, they could be like a top 10 player of all time.
And I think what's more ridiculous in today's era that two guys without jump shots are
Yeah,
this good.
because Ben Simmons and Giannis Antetokounmpo, they should not exist. They are made in a factory. Like, they are not players. That shouldn't happen.
Right.
You shouldn't be that skilled at that size, but they are.
Right, exactly.
And the fact that all it would take, I mean, I'm not saying all it would take like it's an easy thing, but if they spent 2 off seasons just making, like, producing a jump shot every day, just going to the gym and making sure that they shoot at least 35% from three, which is where Michael Jordan typically shot it in his career. My goodness, like, I don't think if Ben Simmons with a jump shot is a top 10 player in the NBA. Like, he is. Like, nobody can argue that. He already is talented enough to be that. He just doesn't have the shot. And I think it's very funny how we have those two players who universally are known as, hey, if you had a jump shot, you'd be the best player in the NBA. So that's crazy, because for the longest time it was always, well, you can shoot, but man, like, I don't know if you can physically compete with everybody else. And LeBron James is LeBron James. And even him, like, man, if he shot 40% from three, I mean, he's a better shooter now.
Yeah.
But man, if he shot what he shot now from three back when he was with the Cavs, I think that, the GOAT conversation that we have, where everybody's basically like, no, it's not him anymore. Like, everybody's basically come to the conclusion it's not LeBron James, it's Michael Jordan. He didn't live up to it. Well, if he would have had that three from the get-go, I think there would be no question in my mind LeBron James is the unquestioned greatest of all time. So it's funny how the three-point shot does affect how we view players. Matt, do you want to?
Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about with Ben Simmons is the three, right? People are always questioning, why doesn't Ben Simmons just start shooting threes, right? Even if he shoots 20%, that's better than nothing. It's not, right? You don't want your players to come out, shoot 20%, miss a bunch of threes. You'd rather he hand the ball off, give it to someone else instead of waste possessions, right?
Yeah.
And for most players, that doesn't work. You get set on the bench because you can't be effective. But when you're Ben Simmons and you can get to the rim the way that he does, it works. And the thing about Ben Simmons is, I'm sure he's a hard worker, right? I'm sure he's sitting there in the gym the entire offseason of last year, just working on his three. But until it becomes something where it's consistent, why would he shoot it, right? And he's that smart.
Yeah.
Like, he's so smart that he knows it's better to be shooting 30, 35, 40% than shoot 20%, because then you're harming your team, right? Like, if you're Giannis, you'd rather Giannis shoot nothing, because that works out better, because he can get to the rim that way, obviously, right?
Yeah.
If you're Andre Robertson, you'd rather you do nothing. But yeah, if you're Ben Simmons, he's so smart that he knows that.
Yeah.
And that's something that people need to start realizing.
Yeah.
That they can't criticize him for he's not practicing. I'm sure he's practicing. And we saw it with those videos over the summer, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's becoming Ben Simmons a three-point shooter. Let's see if he does this year.
Absolutely. And like you just said, that's one thing fans don't realize, which is so prevalent, is you think that this guy's just deciding not to shoot a three?
Exactly.
Like, if you're a basketball player, you want to shoot a three.
Yeah,
but he
exactly.
has scouting staffs.
Right.
He has a scouting staff in Philadelphia. Yeah. He has his own personal trainers. He has the coaching staff in Philadelphia. They all go over the statistics and say, hey, Ben, if you shoot that, it's probably going to be an 18 to 20% shot chance you make it.
Right.
If you literally just drive into the man in front of you, there is a 35% chance you make a two-pointer. We would rather go with the 35% chance. So, you see the memes where it's like, shoot it, coward. Well, I mean, statistically, he's better off just throwing his body into the guy in front of him than he is shooting the ball. So
He's smart enough to understand that. But league MVP, I also go with Steph Curry.
Okay.
For the same reason of you lose Durant, Clay's out for possibly January onwards, and we don't know how good he'll be once he comes back.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steph Curry, the last time Durant wasn't there, he averaged about 30 points per game, 6.7 assists, and 5.4 rebounds. And yeah, your point of how much is he going to sit him, like how much Steve Kerr going to sit Steph Curry, I don't think he can. Like, look at the piece on this team. They're going to need his offensive production so much. And in an elevated West, he's going to have to keep the games up. Say he gets sat, yeah, that's a fair point. Then it kind of becomes tough. But look at the teams in the West, right? The improved Western Conference. And it's kind of hard to sit Steph Curry because you know how much you lose on offense. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell helps some of that, but still, Steph Curry is Steph Curry.
But you got to think, though, I mean, he's going to be sitting him against the worst teams in the league, whereas those teams are the one, like the Charlotte Hornets. He's not going to go to Charlotte and be like, Steph, you got to play tonight, man. We really need you. He's going to be like, Steph, hey, take the night off. We need you for the next game, bud.
Definitely.
But that's the team where he can go off for 70, 80 points. Like, the games where he can have the best game statistically, he's going to sit because those are the worst teams.
But when you think about load management, look at Kawhi. He got sat because you have Pascal Siakam, you have Lowry, you have Gasol, or Valanciunas before that.
Yeah.
You had other pieces to pick up the slack where they could still win without Kawhi Leonard, which is what made them a different team last year. You saw it. You knew that they would be a finals contender because whenever Kawhi was out, they were still winning games. But now, you take this Warriors team, can you pull Curry out and tell me definitively that they're still going to win? That's kind of the question, right? And that's what it comes down to.
And it's going to develop on. It's going to really depend on D'Angelo Russell's development. Because I mean,
exactly.
if D'Angelo Russell takes another step forward, that guy can lead a team.
Yeah, and we think like he'll fit in perfectly, which is the speculation, right? But we never really know until we see it.
No, absolutely.
I also think that the Warriors are going to not be as automatic this year, right? They're not going to have the superstar pieces that they've had the past couple of years. So I really think they're going to have to work in terms of, like Sadeep said, offensive production. I think Curry's going to get a good load of work this season. I think Looney, Cauley-Stein, even the post players are going to get more production this year. But Kerr's obviously going to rely on his shooting game and Curry.
And it's no knock against the Warriors because we saw in the playoffs last year, no matter how many pieces they lost, they still remain elite.
Yeah.
And that's just a testament to Steve Kerr and this offense and the culture he's built with the resilience. So don't think the Warriors are going to start suddenly sucking. But at the same time, it's going to be tougher, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. And really the only thing you got to worry about is injuries with them. As long as they stay healthy, I think they're still a playoff team. But, man, all it takes is one injury to that team. One Draymond Green injury, one Curry injury, and that team goes from a playoff to, like, on the outside looking in until one of them comes back. It's just that's the nature of the beast when you lose Kevin Durant. I mean, it sounds like I'd love to have that problem, but it is still a problem. So
no doubt.
All right, well, I hope you all enjoyed today's show. Be sure to check in again next week, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.